Two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Okay, all right. That intro music is fine and all. It's fine and all. We love our intro music, but
yeah, it's okay.
I think we should get the flag. I think we should get the flag.
We got the towel. We got the Wolves towel. We got the Wolves towel.
Get the towel. Get the flag.
It's the playoff towel.
Ow!
Playoff towel. What a night.
Now,
What excitement.
I, for one, never doubted this team and never doubted Karl-Anthony Towns' ability to step up in a big spot.
Of course you did.
So I feel like maybe you should apologize to the audience for your skepticism after Game 3, Judd Zulgad.
Yeah,
the floor is yours. Go ahead.
I'd like to apologize to Kat, to Chris Finch, to Dylan Bundy across the street.
Oh, wow. We're getting the Dylan Bundy one already.
No, you're not. You're not going to.
Three lights out starts.
I said at least until I really don't care. Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that you questioned this team, that you brought the heat yesterday. Clown, I believe unofficially I documented that you used the term after Game 3, clown, no fewer than 15 times, and yet
I think that's true.
And yet Karl-Anthony Towns and Ant last night coming back from basically I don't know what with his knee, but it looked bad. That was
kind of a Paul Pierce situation there. Like he had to be helped to the locker room and came back.
Well,
Paul Pierce, we found out, actually just had to go to the bathroom, right?
And Pierce, they put in a wheelchair for that, which is actually brilliant.
Right.
And in fact, wouldn't it be great if we were all wealthy enough to commission a team, like when you just waited too long, to be like, get the wheelchair.
Wheel me to stall 3, actually.
Exactly.
It's got a little more leg room to work with.
Especially Macadac, a little too much,
Mexican spicy food will get me.
Mexican spicy food, a little too much Taco Bell.
Had a blackened salmon Caesar that was a little heavy on the spice last night. Yeah, definitely could have used someone to wheel me to the bathroom.
You could use the wheelchair.
Morning. Yeah. So, all right, well, we might as well start with some of the feedback that's coming into the show here. And then I actually have a pie chart of praise, if you would entertain it. You were courtside at the arena last night with all the stars.
Wow.
Craig Kilborn in the house last night.
I was at a auxiliary press table, which was actually behind the expensive seats. So I don't want to sell this as I was actually courtside.
Okay. So were you how far back were you? So first of all, auxiliary media seats for a Timberwolves game is not a common thing.
No, it's not.
It's a very rare thing over the last 17 years.
They've got like 4 things now for us. They've got the ordinary press tables, which are by the Wolves bench, which is where I sit during the course of the regular season. They've got an auxiliary group of tables on the other side of that one. But keep in mind, there's now a bunch of empty floor behind the baskets. They put seats there, and then we're behind the seats. So if the fans stand up, which, they do and they should, it's hard to see things. But fortunately, the scoreboard is huge, and so that becomes a secondary place to watch the game. Now I believe they've got some media in a designated suite. And then I think they have some that they just put up in the hockey press box. And this is the first round.
I love it. Well, okay, just to recap, some of the things that were said on this show after Game 3, most of them by you. I don't remember saying any of these things. So I said specifically, I told you guys off the top of the show, like this is about as mad and emotional as I get when it comes to sports. Because I hate the way that Karl-Anthony Towns behaves sometimes. And I hate the way that he has essentially turned into a petulant 12-year-old with zero level of emotional intelligence in some of the biggest games of the season. And I stand by that. Like last night's performance was incredible. And it's exactly the way that you want to bounce back. It doesn't repair fully what happened in Game 3. I mean, they should be up 3-1, right? Like they should be on the verge of closing the series out because of what happened in game. Now, maybe they don't bounce back the way that they did.
I don't think they play like they did last night if they don't screw the pooch not once but twice in Game 3.
Right. But we never shy away from people telling us we were wrong. And so let's just read a few tweets here. Attitude Cooking tweets in. Let's all pause and acknowledge how lucky we are to have Phil Mackey's dumbass opinions. Ask the... a.k.a. the super value version of Colin Cowherd. Diet Colin Cowherd.
Super value was that must be an old guy. Great grocery store back.
Well, they're still around. Yeah, they're still around.
A little bit, but I mean,
Wisconsin
they used to be prevalent. I mean, that's a great reference. Super value. That's almost nice because he could have picked a chain store now but he picked an old school one that I loved.
That's
that
good.
one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
How do you still have a job? You suck.
I saw that one. Yeah.
If we're talking about mediocrity, your line of work is utterly and completely unremarkable. I don't really disagree with that.
Okay.
Still employed, though. Let's see. You haven't been around long enough. You've been a fan. I've been a fan for the franchise's entire history. I've actually been a fan since 1992, just for the record. So I missed the first 3 years.
I was at the first home game. So
there you go. Well, so
I've been around
you're a more
for as long
OG
as
fan.
That guy or before.
If people like you didn't exist in their professions, then the average sports fan's actual enjoyment of sports would probably go up 90%. There's a lot of other ones, too, that are just sort of mean-spirited. Listen, I stand by everything I said after Game 3, that Karl-Anthony Towns behaves like a petulant 12-year-old, and that his performances and disappearing act has cost them 2 or 3 games, and almost certainly Game 3, and now it's up to him to correct it. And he corrected it for Game 4, and that's awesome. And I'm not going to keep going in on him. He played amazingly in Game 4. The Timberwolves even the series. I think the Timberwolves at their best are like head and shoulders better than Memphis.
Memphis wins the mental toughness edge. That's where they win. And I love them. They're not that good. They've got some good players, but they're certainly not a great team. Like this is 4 years ago, the Rockets series, pardon my French, sucked because there was no competition. Like the Rockets were going to shoot threes. They were going to beat you. And the only question, whether you had Butler or not, and you did at the time, was could you win a game or so? And they did. This is the first playoff series, real one, that the Wolves have been in since the run to the Western Conference Finals. There is no question about it.
We're not counting the Rockets. We're not counting the Rockets series.
It doesn't count. They kicked your ass. They kicked your ass, and there was never a question about it. You were lucky to win a game. That series always felt like it will be done soon. This is a series, and this is what I love about it. So I tweeted this last night, and this is true about Cat, true about Ant, true about everybody in this series. A true playoff series between teams like this. So again, not a 2-7 where the 2 is superior and the 7's happy to be there. It is basically, for lack of a better explanation, it's a Netflix series because they're short. It's 7 games, mini series, but within the series, there's twists and there's turns, and people are tested, and characters show themselves to be one thing in one game and then something else in one game.
I'm watching a John Wayne Gacy miniseries right now on Netflix, and the character development there is fascinating.
Exactly, but I mean,
speaking of clowns,
he was yeah. Don't you know a clown can get away with murder? But that's the thing about this series that's so fun. For instance, the writers in this particular series are doing a marvelous job of having people pop up. Bane, like Ja last night was awful. Ja was awful. And again, that's how these things go. But Bane was marvelous at times.
Yeah, they killed off Steven Adams after like the first episode.
Exactly. And it's like Steven Adams is an important. Oh my God, he's dead. What are they going to do? McLaughlin last night. So this is what I love about the ebbs and the flows and the conversations. And look, I think what we said about Cat after Game 3 was dead on. Like that can't happen. And I got a note from a guy last night saying, "What do you is Ja going to get criticized now?" In Memphis, I'm sure he is, and he deserves it after last night. Like, this is the thing. Everything is on the line. And this, when you're watching a series like this, yeah, talent's awesome. That's great. If you're talented, that is so cool. But what really separated, well, in addition to talent, Jordan and Kobe, what separated them? Like, what do we still talk about? Their mental toughness was off the charts. And I will go back to saying, in hockey and basketball, in my opinion, they're fun to watch. The playoffs are great, but I think as a player, when you reflect on them, it's great. But I think as a player right now, it sucks. Like, you are getting the bleep beaten out of you every game.
Yeah. Yes.
You're paying a price. You are basically like Cat. If you have a game like you did in Game 3, Phil, you are going to get crapped on. And in my opinion, you deserve it. If you had a game like you did last night, my exact words are this: you got to do that again. There's no big upside to let's celebrate. If Cat did this in when Cat scored 60 against the Spurs, right? We celebrated it, right? Oh my God, that's great. The playoffs don't allow celebration. They allow for expectation. Like, this is why playoff series that are really competitive are so much fun.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, what's your real goal? Like, if you're a player, is your real goal to celebrate yourself and after each game feel good? Or is it to rip the heart and soul out of your opponent, to rip their head off? That's what it is. That's what Michael did. That's what Kobe did. So I think sometimes in this town, we're wired to think about games as isolated games. Oh, it was a great game. It was great.
Yeah.
No, series aren't great games. Series are hellish fights.
And from a basketball perspective, we just haven't had a whole lot of it, right? Like, it's you have a great game, or you beat the Clippers, and then you win game one. It's like, oh, this is it was like, well, no, you're strapping in for the long haul here, and even like. And when I say long haul, I mean even just like a series. Like, a series is a long haul, like you're diagramming. So I think, and we'll get to the pie chart of praise here. Let's go in on the Cat subject here, because I think it's probably of the most interest to our viewers and listeners here on the SKOR North YouTube channel. Please click subscribe if you're taking this episode in. It helps spread the word about our show and this community of Minnesota sports fans that we're building here. And I think a lot of people are coming to listen or to watch us get our comeuppance, and maybe me specifically, after what happened last night. So let's go in on this. How do you put the Cat experience into context here? And let's take the 5 games. The Clippers it was a play-in game, but let's lump it in with the playoff games. You had to win that game to get to the Memphis series to, get to where you are going to game 5. So we've had 5 play-in or playoff games so far. Mm-hmm. He has been excellent in 2 of them. Mm-hmm. Unstoppable, excellent, channeling his emotion mostly in the right way in those games. Mm-hmm. And then he's either been a disappearing act or a sabotager in the other 3 games. And so for all the people, that's what sucks, because like, I want the Timberwolves to win. I want the Timberwolves to beat Memphis. I want the Timberwolves to learn and to go deep and to build off this. When I see the red behavioral flags that Cat has been exhibiting in 3 of these 5 games, and at times during regular season games too, it tells me, I don't know if you can get, maybe you've gone as far as you can with him behaving that way. So it's not on the people criticizing and calling him out for sabotaging behavior. It's on him to correct it like he did in game 4, get to a new level of maturity of play, and grind through a very difficult experience here professionally, right? So yes. I'm a little bewildered at like the victory laps that people are doing, and like, you guys are clowns, and this is like, no,
well, we are, but that's okay.
We are clowns, that's true. But I think all of the criticism of him after game 3 was valid. Now, if you want to take issue with me floating the question out, would you trade him? All right, that was a little hot takey. I'm not going to lie. That was a little aggressive. Now, if somebody wants to offer me a huge package of assets or something.
That's actually a conversation that we'll have once the playoffs are done.
Yeah, it's for another day. It's for another day. But I like, my main takeaway last night is he can and should perform at or near that level all the time. Yeah. If he now that you're gonna have a bad game here and there, but like, it's one thing to have a bad game because your shot's not falling. It's another thing to have a bad game because you are unable to check your behavior and stay in the game and avoid foul trouble, kicking your leg out, for an offensive foul. So he can channel his emotion. Now, the way he characterized it was, I played with rage and anger and I channeled it. Like, I don't know if you can do that for 82 games and then every game of a playoff series. You got to find some sort of centered way of going about your business.
Yeah.
But however he did it last night, it proves to me that, dude, you are the best player on the court when you want to be and when you're able to channel your energy that way.
Yep.
So let's celebrate it. The series is tied. Let's see it again in game 5. Let's see it again in game 6. And let's set a bar here, okay? The Wolves stars are older than the Grizzlies stars. There's no reason at this point, in a best of 3 situation, I get that 2 of the games are at Memphis, why the Wolves stars can't channel this thing and win this series in 6 or 7 games. And so, that's That's a fair expectation at this point, which is lock it in, stop behaving like a petulant 12-year-old, and play like you did in Game 4. And look what happened.
Well, first of all, there's no reason to celebrate it. Like last night in a vacuum for fans is great, and that's and you celebrate that win. But much like a team, I'm sorry. I think the fan base has to move on to the next game and expect. And this is the thing that I don't understand. Well, I do understand it. I guess I would like to help try and change it. There is this feeling that when this show in particular, and other shows as well, not as many as there should be in this town, but there are shows that do this as well. There is this feeling that when you come down hard on a superstar, you somehow aren't a fan or don't like that guy. Or
now you're off the bandwagon forever. Yeah, you don't ask to come back on.
Right. The expectation of any player like a Kirk Cousins, like a Cat, and it actually should start with their biggest stands, is greatness in every game that matters. So I'm with you. I would never. Now, would I like to see Cat grow up 100%? But do I expect Karl-Anthony Towns in December to come out and play with whatever he wants to call it? If you want to call it rage, that's fine. If you want to call it a high level of professionalism, that's fine.
He was amped in the first quarter.
Yeah, and he was about too amped, and I think they amped him down, which is good. But anyway, the point is, in every one of these games, what he did last night has to be how he starts the game with that mentality. Whatever that is, whatever gets him there. Now, he's going to have some games that aren't great. But first of all, to those who say, well, Ja had a bad game, which Ja did have a bad game, what do you have to say about that? First of all, I'm not worried about their star. I'm worried about the star on this team because we talk about this team. Second of all, Cat at his best, we know, can be one of the most dominant unicorn type guys in this entire league, which, by the way, has some of the greatest athletes that currently roam the planet. Third of all, the thought of, well, now in games 1 and 4, he showed it. Okay, but it has to be there in game 2 and 3. And think about this. Again, I'll go back to if you're going to if the fan base or if Cat stands are going to say, well, Cat is one of the greats, which I would assume that you are if you are a big stan of Karl-Anthony Towns, then you're comparing him to the greats. And let's talk about, again, because I think it's very important, how the greats are mentally wired. And how they are wired is, did they have a great game every playoff game? Probably not. You're going to have some nights your shot won't fall. But then the question is this, and this is true of all sports. How do the greats who aren't performing at their peak level in a very important game impact the game? Because they find a way to impact the game. And to use your term, they don't do it as a drain. They don't do it as, well, I'm not going well, so I'm just pissed off and this whole thing's going to hell.
Yeah.
They say, what can I do to alter and impact the game in a positive way? And you know what? Lots of times they got praise for that because it was so obvious that they still did things. Like, this is what, Phil, it's so intriguing because, like, Barkley's great. Like, he's hilariously funny and he comes out and completely destroys Cat, and I chuckle. But Shaq, who was great, Barkley, who to a certain degree as a player was certainly great. Now, he didn't win a ring, but they saw greatness, right? Like, I think the reason why they absolutely crap on Cat after a game like game 3, and this is where it gets intriguing. And I don't think they do a great job of articulating this because it's probably more, it probably pulls more people in just to rip him. But they saw greatness. And what they saw was, and I think they see greatness in Cat, but what they saw from guys like Kobe and Jordan and the greats was they saw an ability to impact the team positively on nights they weren't at their best. And that's like, I think people think that we just have these surface level conversations about, well, he sucked. And so, but they go much deeper than that. Like, folks, if you, and look, just to be clear, first of all, our viewers and listeners, for the most part, are incredibly smart. And I realize that we talk often about what we see on Twitter. I would say, I like Twitter. I don't know that I would pat people on the back for being incredibly smart across the board. But so I'm not trying to talk down to people. But pro sports is a different animal. Like, it is a world that is unto itself. It doesn't exist in other walks of life. It doesn't exist in business. It doesn't exist. And so when we have conversations about Kirk or Cat, they're not simply about well, he should do more and he doesn't. So, and we watch a lot of games from the couch. We've both been around teams. We've both been around players. We've both been around great players and crappy players and crappy people. So we're coming from a place of what should the expectation be? Why? And again, at the end of the day, how do you get to a championship? Because winning a championship, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to continue to say this. Winning a championship is great. Getting there ain't a lot of fun. It's not a senior year in high school. Getting to what the Wolves are going through right now ain't a lot of fun. You are literally seeing, I mean, the way that Memphis plays, and again, I love them, but the way that they play, they hang around, they try and beat you up. They literally play an ugly, they're like a good Big Ten football team. They're going to run the ball and you got to stop them. That ain't fun. So anyway, I want to clear up. Our conversations are not based on, well, we just watch a lot of basketball or we watch a lot of sports and we think this guy should be better. They're based on what gets you there. And to call a spade, if Kirk Cousins in the Vikings case or Karl-Anthony Towns in the Wolves case aren't performing at their optimum when it matters most, it almost doesn't, or I didn't put that right. It doesn't matter what the rest of the team does. It doesn't matter. If they're not performing at their optimum, which means at its worst, they're not playing great, but they're finding a way to lift up their teammates, then we are going to continue to be in the vicious cycle of mediocrity that we long ago accepted.
Yeah, I think, well, I where I disagree with you is I find joy in the process, even though the process is tumultuous and gut-wrenching as a player, as a fan, as a coach. Like when the Wolves take a 15-point lead last night and Memphis chunks away at it. I love, like, it's playoff basketball, man. It's a blast.
I love it. What I'm saying is, in reality, it's probably not a lot of fun if you're playing. Like, it's because you've got to, if you're wired right, I'm sure it's great. But what I'm saying is the whole thing is a drain on you physically, mentally. But that's what makes it great.
And last night,
I love about it.
From a Cat standpoint, and then I want to fire my pie chart of praise at you here. I have 5 slices of Wolves pie chart of praise. But, last night showed you what's possible on a regular basis in the playoffs against a 2 seed that won 50-plus games when your star player locks it in.
Yep.
And when he doesn't lock it in 3 of 4 games leading into that game, and he behaves the way that he did, calling him on the carpet for it should not be viewed as hating. It should not be viewed like, listen, do we go overboard sometimes? Maybe. Do I go overboard sometimes? I mean, hell, I prefaced the episode after that game on Ventline by saying I am highly emotional right now. I'm probably going to say some things that I either can't take back or that are too far gone. But what he did last night, it shouldn't be unrealistic to say, boom, that's the player that people love. That's the player that people know is in there. And that performance should essentially drive the rest of the series. I'm not saying he's going to put up 33 and 14 or whatever it is every game the rest of the series here, but I don't want to see 3 quick fouls in game 5 and an overly emotional wreck, right? Let's lock it in, dude. This is what can happen. Let's focus. Let's play like that. Let's see what happens the rest of the series.
I think that's incredibly fair.
And calling people out for their petulant behavior or for melting down in key moments, I don't know, maybe it's just, I don't think it happens a lot in the Twin Cities. It just doesn't. I feel like it's more of a, we need to support and we need to and we do. Listen, we're sitting here waving the flag and I'm sitting here sweating regular season games on a nightly basis, but I want this team to maximize its potential because I've seen way too many Wolves cores over the last 17 years not maximize their potential. And so when I rip Karl-Anthony Towns after game 3, it comes from a place of wanting them to be as good as they possibly can be. And I stand by all those criticisms. It's up to him to correct it. He did in game 4. And that's why, my friend,
Now on Mackey and Judd.
You wanted better charts that you could see the fine print on.
The pie chart of praise.
You should be singing his praises.
The Rock knows how you feel about pie.
That's why Karl-Anthony Towns gets the biggest chunk of pie for last night's win. 40% of my pie chart of praise goes to Karl-Anthony Towns. Yeah.
Okay.
Could probably give even more, but I wanted to save some for some other stakeholders here.
Okay.
He was dominant. He found his shot. I love how early on he decided, I'm going to get to the free throw line. I'm gonna play mostly in control. The guys who are defending me are 6'8" and 6'9". I'm gonna launch 3-pointers over their heads. And he
fourth quarter he was huge.
Yeah, it was one of the best fourth quarters of his
career.
That
was the quarter where he completely, I thought, locked in and looked like a superstar in the playoffs.
Yep, and this is one of Memphis's great advantages in this series is their ability to rebound. They're the best rebounding team in the NBA, and Karl-Anthony Towns made a concerted effort. I'm gonna avoid giving them offensive rebounds, and I'm gonna throw outlet passes and get going. So 40% of the pie chart of praise goes to Karl-Anthony Towns for an incredible bounce back performance. He deserves all sorts of praise, and the expectation is, let's keep building off this. Let's keep going forward like this.
Yeah, let's not be happy.
I'm willing to celebrate it longer than Judd probably is. Yeah, 3 days now until the next game.
Dude, I don't have time to celebrate within a playoff series. I don't. I'm on to the next game. Like, until this is done, I am so tired of just accepting, that game, I will celebrate that game as a whole. I thought that game I loved it.
That game was a blast, yeah.
But no, I got to see this again and again. Like, let's see this from Karl. Let's see this from this team. There's still things to get going. There's still players who need to get going.
All right, I lied. I actually have 6 slices because I just thought of another slice that needs to be doled out. But let's give 10. I'm going to bounce around here a little bit. Let's give 10% to Anthony Edwards. The knee thing makes me a little nervous. Like, why did your knee just randomly feel like you had to be held?
I thought that was
it was great.
God. Well,
you'll see the rest of them, and you'll know why I only gave him 10. But yeah,
as someone who was there, I will say this: he went out in the first quarter, and it looked bad. Like, he was literally helped. He did not walk off the floor. 2 guys dragged him off the floor. When he came back to the bench, the place went absolutely nuts. And I mean, that place was liquored up. It was great. It was so intense. And then when he checked back in, the place went nuts. And I think that provided a mental boost that was so important.
Yeah. Well, and even like his offense was on display, just the threes he was knocking down, everything, getting to the rim, and
the dunk,
the free throw line, the dunk, everything. But also, like, that dude played some defense last night. He was on Ja Morant at times. Yep. Desmond Bane was shooting over everyone, but like, he wound up with 3 blocks, couple of steals, hands in passing lanes, only committed 2 fouls. So just, he was everywhere last night. And I don't know, obviously doesn't feel 100% because.
No, he's not. And when play also stopped, and they would have guys would just like walk around the floor, he had a big hitch. Like, he was trying to, I don't know what he did, but he kept trying to like flex the knee.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what's wrong there. But
he had some weird device on his knee too. Like, I don't know if it was like when he was checking into games.
Some guys wear that now. But anyway, that's one that he definitely is playing through something that hurts like hell.
Yeah. Okay. 10% goes to Chris Finch's defensive strategy of getting the ball out of Ja Morant's hands. So they basically, and it, I wouldn't say it backfired early, but I think like the unintended consequence was, Desmond Bane's going to shoot even more 3-pointers than maybe he usually would because he's open, and he cashed 6 of his first 7. And I mean, even for good measure, if Cat hadn't knocked down both those free throws at the end of the game, Desmond Bane freaking bullseyed a meaningless 3 at the end. But Ja Morant was just wildly uncomfortable getting his own shots up. Only took 3 free throws after taking 20 in game 1 and went 4 for 13. Now, Memphis had a huge problem with the officiating. I don't know. The Wolves have been called for like 15 more fouls in the series than Memphis. So
the Wolves did too. The officiating, here's what I don't get quickly on that, because I'm not going to defend. I'm not going to take the side of the Wolves or the Grizzlies. What I don't understand is, what is the rhyme or reason for how they decide when to make calls? Like, early on, they were calling offensive fouls. It's like, this is playoff basketball. I mean, to a certain point, and I think this is what the Grizzlies didn't like, you got to let them play.
Yeah.
Like, this is not going to be, there's no way to turn this into an aesthetically pleasing series.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, did you see all those great plays? This is going to be a bull in a china shop series. So I'm not saying, allow them to commit felonies on the court, but I am saying I prefer when they just allow them to play.
20% goes to Jordan McLaughlin.
Yeah, that's good.
Just absolutely incredible. Only played 14 minutes, but his impact was felt way beyond that. It just, D'Lo hasn't had a great series, and so when J-Mac comes in and steadies the ship like that, he scores 16 points in 14 minutes, knocks down all 4 of his three-pointers. After the game, Anthony Edwards called him and Josh Okogie the 2 best teammates he's ever had in his basketball life, and said, every answer I'm going to have in this post-game press conference is going to be J-Mac. So only ask me about J-Mac. And then Chris Finch was asked, why didn't you play him in Game 3? He goes, we all do stupid things sometimes. So you can probably pencil in 12 to 20 minutes from J-Mac going forward in this series.
This Finch J-Mac thing is weird, too, because that's about the second or third time during the course of the season that Finch has criticized himself for not playing J-Mac more. And I think in Finch's defense, I think he thinks to himself, well, the guys I'm playing at point guard are paid a lot, especially D'Lo, and so he should be playing. But yeah, you could flat out say, I don't think there's any question if J-Mac doesn't do what he did last night, the Wolves lose that game.
Yes.
Like, he was enormous, and he kept knocking down shots, and he knocked down shots that were spotlight shots. Mm-hmm. Like you talk about your heart starting to race and your neck pulse starting to race. Those were definitely shots that came during those times, and he knocked them down, and that was fun.
Yeah, it was great. I mean, he's just, I don't know. At some point, could I see him being a starting point guard in the league? Yeah, I know. He's sort of playing his way into, I think, I don't know if the Wolves are going to keep him long term or not. I hope they do, but
probably needs to be more consistency there, is my guess. But when he heats up, he's really, really good.
10% to the scrappy combo of Jared Vanderbilt and Pat Bev, who both did Jared Vanderbilt and Pat Bev things last night.
Yes, I agree.
Pat Bev wound up, his 3-point shot was falling last night, but those guys combined for 29 points, 6 assists, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. Like, just the exact things that you want those guys to do. Vanderbilt was great cutting and finding open space under the basket in the paint. So I just, those 2 guys are such intangible glue energy guys, and if they're not going well, it's hard for the Wolves to play at their highest level. So those guys, and they were out there for a combined 72 minutes as well. They both mostly avoided foul trouble, so that was great to see.
And the thing with both of them is going well doesn't mean scoring a ton of points. It means doing their job. And the thing with Bev is, so I got there about 7:15 last night, and he was on the floor working on the exact threes that he missed in Game 3, which is I think how he functions. But yeah, he definitely he doesn't have to knock down a ton of shots, but he needs to knock down the shots that he does take for the most part. And it felt like in Game 4 he did that. Now, the fake punch at the ball that got him a tech is the type of thing where it's just, what are you doing? Like, dude, I know you play with passion and that's awesome, but that in that game at that time, that is unbelievably off the charts stupid. Yeah. So that frustrated me, but yeah, it felt like Pat Bev did what he is expected to do, and in Game 3 he didn't.
And they're finding, there's some other Wolves media members and bloggers, Dane Moore, who have pointed out more of the X's and O's of the series, but they're doubling Karl-Anthony Towns all the time because it's just hard for them to guard him straight up. And so Jared Vanderbilt winds up being open a lot because they're going to let him, if he wants to take a 15-footer or something. Now, when he flashes to the hoop, they got to. So you can kind of get him in the spin cycle. Jared Vanderbilt's going to be open as Karl-Anthony Towns gets double teamed. Find him, and then ideally he has an open layup or a dunk or something. If not, now they're in the spin cycle and there's going to be an open 3 somewhere. So it seems like they may have found a way to unlock the spin cycle out of these Karl-Anthony Towns double teams.
But that's what makes this great is now the Grizzlies will adjust back to that. And the thing, so the interesting thing about what you just said about Vanderbilt is they want him to shoot. So they're like, hey, dude, go stand there, go shoot. They don't want him to be able to basically get to the basket. And last night it felt like they ran more plays and were more cognizant of that.
Yeah.
Now, the interesting thing there that comes back on Cat, and like there's a lot of this is the great thing about sports. There's like these small things, right? Like there's these big picture strategy things and personnel deployments, but then they spin off these very small things. And one of these small but very important things is this: Cat's passing. I don't know why sometimes he thinks he's magic, but there are times, I'm dead serious, where he's in the doubles and he decides he's going to get cute with his passes.
Mm-hmm.
And he throws these horrific pieces of crap that, you know what, again, in January, okay, dude, don't do that, but let's go on. Last night, that's a killer. But what he did last night was, at least a couple times, he found Vanderbilt slashing to the basket with just solid passes. And that sounds stupid. You'd be like, well, of course you made a solid pass, but he doesn't all the time. You know, he does this behind the back crap. He does this stuff. It's like, no, man, you ain't a point guard. Pass the ball from the double to the open teammate. And he did that. And so I do think this comes down to a little bit. I think it comes down to a combination of things. I think it comes down to coaching. I think it comes down to harnessing Cat and getting what you need from Cat. I think, Phil, there's a conversation here that we could have at some point. And I'm going to say this, and I'm not saying it in a derogatory way, okay? I think the thing of maximizing Karl-Anthony Towns and Cousins, and by the way, Karl is a superior player in his sport, but I think it's largely helping them in their headspace. I really do. Like, I think last night Karl got some help. I don't think, and this is not on Chris Finch directly, but I don't think in game 3 he got a lot of help headspace wise. And I think when Memphis then pushes him, he just goes off the edge of the cliff, right?
Yeah.
But didn't it seem like last night he was a little bit more, he wasn't contained. He played with rage, but he channeled it, right? But I also felt like as far as the game, the actual offensive strategy went last night, that they gave him some help in how he should go about things, and that played a very important role in having a defined cause for success.
Yeah, I'm very curious to know more about the process between games 3 and 4. Johnny K did a good job laying out some of it in his Athletic article this morning.
Yeah, that probably right.
But he was saying that Cat essentially spent 2 days being pissed off and letting everyone know behind the scenes and essentially demanding the basketball. And now if you look at some of the clues during and after game 4, you know, Pat Bev was asked in the post game, hey, what'd you think of Cat bouncing back? And Pat Bev said, well, he's paid all that money. This is what he's supposed to do.
Yeah.
And then there was a moment where he was writhing on the ground in pain in like the third or fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And none of his teammates came over to help him up. He was down there for like
which is very weird for them.
Pretty
that's their
long amount of time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And a Grizzlies player came over to check on him and tapped him on the back, but like literally none of his teammates came over. So I wonder, and I'm again not saying that like his teammates are out. I'm just saying I wonder if things got tense behind the scenes between games 3 and 4. Because I told you after game 3, if I was one of his coworkers or teammates, I would be very frustrated with him and the way that he has behaved and acted and come up short. And my opinion of him would be a lot different than maybe 30 days ago. So is it possible that his teammates spent the last couple days also being like, come on, dude, it's, you know, however you need to get there. But like, is it wearing thin a little bit?
Well,
and maybe he got some of his teammates back with that performance last night. I don't know. Just throwing it out there.
So to extrapolate on that a little bit. So first of all, anything that Karl says like post game, I don't buy, because I think Karl spins his own story. So like yes, I think he played with rage or whatever, which is great. But do I think that he told us what really transpired? Absolutely not even close. I think that he has in his mind his own story, and he tells that like a storybook.
Like if someone chewed him out, he's not going to say that at the post game. He's going to
He's going to say I was mad, and it's like, okay, dude. But anyway, to get back to how to get the best, because I mean, the playoffs are all about maximizing players. Like, and I don't care how you do it, you got to maximize your guys. To get back to the Finch thing, which we won't find out, but I'd be curious about too, is, you know, by not calling the timeout in the fourth quarter in game 3, Finch tipped his hand to how he likes to go about handling people, which is he clearly wants them to figure it out. Which, by the way, if you have a group of high functioning people, is not the worst idea. But I don't think Cat can.
They need a little more hand-holding. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they did. And I think what they did was they came to an agreement. Like, I'm sorry, you know more about the sport than me. But when it comes to basketball, I'm not willing to buy the old, well, they didn't get me the ball, so I couldn't score. Like, okay, you got to demand the ball. Like you're allowing.
How are you communicating in the huddle? Right. How are you are you stop running over to the media table and saying print that they're not, the refs this, like, which he literally did during game 3. But go have an adult conversation with your teammates and say, guys.
Or don't have an adult conversation. Say, give me the bleeping ball. But the thing is, if you look at that, like, I could see a quarter where it gets away and you don't get the ball, and you're like, okay, guys, that's going to bleep and change right now.
Yeah.
So anyway, yes, I think hand holding and manipulating of the situation were done, which, if it resulted in a win, I don't care. But it's another just interesting storyline in what is, I think, a fantastic, fun series.
Yeah. So I think the biggest question is, if you look at, and by the way, 10%, I'm going to finish my pie chart here. 10% goes to fans.
Feel about pie.
The fans were lit last night. You were in the arena, but like, oh my God.
2 games in a row. 2 games in a row. These people have brought it, and people deserve a ton of credit.
So I think I'll put a bow on just my thoughts here, then you put a bow on yours. But I think the biggest question now is, we've had from on the cat thing, we've had 5 games now, 4 against Memphis, 1 against the Clippers, and 3 of them he's been awful, non-existent, or sabotaging. 2 of them he's been what you would expect.
Sure.
Did he learn enough from the criticism that he took? I mean, he got hammered. He got hammered by the TNT guys. He got hammered by some local people. Obviously, I don't know if he caught any of what we said, but like, he got hammered. And then he responded in the way that you would love to see him respond. And now the question is, what's the norm going to be going forward in these huge games? Because it's not enough to bat 400. It's not enough to be great 2 out of 5 times. Let's celebrate and give him praise for game 4, but the series isn't over yet, right? So is this going to be the new norm? Has he through his learning and through, just figuring out how to deal with the emotions of a playoff series and the X's and O's, like, has he learned now how to carry this over from game to game? Or was this kind of a one-time, I had to play with rage and get up for this one game? That's what I'm curious to see. Honestly, I think he learned a lot after game 3. I'm not ready to, crown him and bet the over on points, but I think he learned a lot from game 3, and I would expect in games 5 and 6, and maybe there's a game 7, that he plays a lot more like he did in game 4 than the trash games 2 and 3. What do you think?
I think this. We have to see what he does when Memphis counterpunches what the Wolves did last night. It's a boxing match. And Memphis is well coached. They're smart. They're gritty. They know how. They clearly have figured out ways to get to Cat. For the most part, games 1 and 4, and this is a credit to Karl as well, pretty much went to how Karl wanted. That doesn't mean they weren't tough games, but he didn't take a real punch. He didn't take that counter punch where, okay, Karl, now you're off balance. What are you going to do about it? I need to see how he responds when he takes that next punch, because that's the frustration factor then. And do you immediately punch back? And you know what? There were small things last night. I'm just saying that it felt like he just played a damn good game. Mm-hmm. But there's going to be times where you probably don't get off to a great start. Something happens. Something goes wrong. Way more wrong than it ever did last night. And now you are still being counted on to have a tremendous game. And it feels like that's where he has some problems with getting inside his own head. And once he's there, he usually can't get out. So that's what I need to see, because there is still, Tuesday night. It's going to be great. Episode 5, Grizzlies Wolves on Netflix, baby.
Let's get it.
It's going to be great. Hold on.
Get the towel.
Here's towel. Right here. Here's towel. There it is. Episode 5 coming up.
Amazing, man. Amazing. All right. Well, we'll have plenty more thoughts too on Monday's Mackey and Judd show.
A long show. This is good stuff.
No, let's do 20 minutes. We wound up doing 45 minutes. So
that was so fun last night.
So yeah, Judd holding it down in the arena, and this is a series, man. This is a blast. Mackey and Judd, a little special weekend episode here. You're going to be off to Target Field. I'm going to go get some brunch here, and we'll see you guys for statements on Monday. Mackey and Judd, daily Minnesota sports entertainment, therapy, or celebration.